Coaches Talk podcast, this time with a guy that I have as a mentor since I arrived in Ohio, Dr. Allanson, or Coach Allanson for a lot. 33 years old, former professional soccer at Hull City and Scounthorpe United FC. I hope I said that right. Make appearance for England futsal team. Get a degree in sports coaching performance. Got a PhD and holds a UEFA B license. And is a guy that I learned a lot to become a coach, and I feel way more prepared with the classes with him. So Dr. Allanson, I don't know if I mentioned everything, but you can introduce yourself for the people that are going to watch this podcast.
Love it. Hi, how are you doing, Rafa? All good? And yeah, I think you gave me a great introduction there. Just from my perspective, in my role right now, which is a kind of a professor at Ohio University, to think about my journey to get here, and the journey into that kind of pathway into coaching and now coaching education at Ohio University, and I'm very fortunate to be where I am. It's all because of soccer. It's all because of my career that I had, and then my transition into coaching from my failed professional career, if you like, and then a successful semi-professional career. But it's amazing what the vehicle of soccer can do for individuals, and especially those individuals that play then coach. So I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am, and I appreciate getting on this podcast. Normally it's the other way around, where Rafa's doing podcasts for my classes, where now I'm doing a podcast for his general kind of excitement and entertainment.
No, yeah, I'm glad we could bring you here. And like all these podcasts is the guests always tell the soccer story. So I just want to tell how you started playing soccer, if there was a reason in the family or you just like it, and how was the Allanson right in the beginning, and we go from there.
So I'd say, first of all, I grew up in a very soccer-specific family where everything was derived around soccer, and it came because of my dad. My dad was an ex-professional. He played for Doncaster Rovers, and we had a very similar kind of professional career where he only lasted 4 years in the game, and I lasted 5 years in the game. And he was the person that got me involved with soccer from a very young early age, like 4 or 5 years old, and with my granddad as well, and who was a professional referee in the kind of lower levels of English soccer, and kind of from 5-6 years old went to a coach that did kind of the Dutch style of cover coaching, which is kind of I know it's a thing that's been around for a long time, and a lot of researchers in my field right now has debunked it a little bit, saying that we need to be more game-based coaches. But believe me, I believe cover coaching was the reason why I was technically proficient. And we did a lot of cover coaching with this one coach, especially from the majority of my childhood. And then I was very fortunate to get picked up by Hull City Academy as a local lad playing in England, and from 8-9 years old was signed into a professional academy. It's very different then to what it is now, because we used to be able to play for our Sunday League club as well as train 3 times a week for the professional soccer, which is obviously Hull. And then what you would do, you'd do that until you was under 13, and that under 13, you transitioned into just playing for that club. So at 13, you just play for Hull. Now, I was at Hull for 4 or 5 years, up till under 12. And while I was at under 12 level, I was playing for my district team, my local club team. So we played district on a Saturday, club on a Sunday, train for the club and the district and the professional club. So it was nearly every day. I don't know how I managed it, being honest. I didn't play any other sport. And Leeds United kind of scouted me, and they were a big time club at the time. I know they're doing well in the Championship this year in England, but they don't want trial. And basically what happened was they had to exchange money with Hull. And at the time, Hull was languishing at the bottom of the 3rd division, like about to go out of business. And then Leeds United came and offered a few $1,000s for a 12-year-old, and they took it, and I moved to Leeds, and then I was still living in Hull, and it's about an hour and a half drive. So 3-4 times a week I used to go to Leeds, and my mum and my granddad would take me. My dad was actually coaching at Hull, so we had kind of split kind of time, so he didn't really watch me that much when I was at Leeds. But the players I played with when I was at Leeds was Aaron Lennon and James Milner, and so they was in the same age group as me. And to see where they are now compared to where I am is a bit depressing.
Nice.
But they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal players, even at under 12, under 13 age. But then I had a very, very bad injury against Manchester City when I was under 14, and that kind of led me then to kind of reevaluate the travelling and my development. And my parents said like they've had enough of travelling, and asked me to go back to Hull.
And I asked two things, just the position I was playing was a holding midfielder, and if you wanted to go to Leeds when that happened. Like you wanted, or how was for you these two things? Just
so to begin with, my position was when I was younger, I was like an attacking midfielder. Everybody played 4-4-2 back then, so it wasn't like a number 10 role, but I guess that's what I saw myself as a bit of a technically gifted dribbler, and I soon changed that when I lost my pace with this injury. And then, I wanted to go to Leeds, definitely wanted to go to Leeds. Even though there was money exchange, it was mainly us pushing that. Otherwise, I could have said no, I didn't want to go, and they wouldn't have exchanged the financial aspects of that. But for me, it was I wanted to go. I wanted to push myself against the better players, and with better players than what was at Hull. This is no disrespect to the players in Hull at the time. And it turned out to be a good thing and a bad thing. And then I had to make a decision at under 15. When I came back from this injury, I wasn't developing the way I was developing. I was out for like 16 months of the game. I basically ruptured my hamstring and splintered the bottom of my pelvic bone. So as a 14-year-old, that was a bit of a bad injury, and I was on crutches for like 3 or 4 months, which is a 14-year-old's tough anyway. So imagine that, throwing that 16 months without playing. And then my parents had kind of had enough of the travelling, and I made a decision that I wanted to go back to Hull. Unfortunately, Hull then had to pay Leeds because I was still under contract for another year. So the same amount of money exchanged. So basically, Hull got the money back, basically. And then I signed for Hull, and I was able to sign a contract that basically guaranteed me a youth team scholarship, which is what you sign when you leave school at 16. So I played at Hull until I left school, and then I was in the kind of a full-time professional in the youth team, and they call it youth team scholarship, YTS. So I signed a 3-year YTS, but after 2 years, they can kind of have the option of whether they want to extend it or basically release you. And I'll be honest with you, that was probably between 16 and 18 was the toughest time of my football career. I really struggled with the coach I was working with at the time, even though he became a mentor in the future. When I started coaching, but we butted heads a little bit as a player-coach relationship, and I've mentioned this in class to you. But he has taught me so much in the world of soccer and the world of coaching. Just his methods in the way he delivers his message was different to how I would deliver the message. But the knowledge and the content knowledge he had was incredible. And I still today see him as a mentor. And so, unfortunately, I kind of wasn't doing too well. I got offered an extended 3-month contract at the end of my, I think it was the 03-04 season. And I took that, and then unfortunately even though I had a really good pre-season, I broke my foot and I was out for a few months. And I then had to go into the manager's office or the head coach's office, which was Peter Taylor. And Peter Taylor was has managed England. And basically his claim to fame was he gave David Beckham the captaincy. And he took Hull City from the 3rd division to the Championship, was a fantastic coach. And he sat me down and basically said that I'm not a Championship caliber player, even though he rates me, and I may be best going elsewhere. And that was something that I kind of saw coming because I know I wasn't doing as well, and I was able to adapt. And luckily, after a month, Scunthorpe put me on. They must have saw something, and then I was in Scunthorpe. I was a pro. I was enjoying life. I was performing okay. I was on that route to developing. But the team under Brian Laws at the time, and then under Nigel Atkins, who famously is, we don't need Mourinho, we've got our physio. He ended up getting us promotion. And we ended up being back in the championship, and the same conversation occurred that I was not a championship caliber player and I'd be best suited going elsewhere. And fortunately for me, I went on loan to a very small club called Farsley Celtic, who was in the Conference North, which is 2 levels below professional level of League Two in England. And we end up getting to the playoffs and end up getting promoted to the conference, national conference. So I got signed on a year deal there after getting released by Scunthorpe, and we had a season in the conference. It was a tough season. It was a good season for me, but it was a tough season. We ended up getting relegated. And the club financially was terrible. We couldn't afford the players. I had checks that bounced every other week. And all of a sudden, they kind of went out of business after being the most successful history they've ever had. 2 years later, they're out of business and they had to reform. So I kind of had a decision to make, because while I was at Farsley, I became a semi-professional player, even though I was in the conference level, which is a high level and a lot of there's a lot of full-time players there. So I decided to go to university, and I went to my own university, University of Hull, because coaching had started to become a thing. Even though while I was playing, I realised I wasn't ever going to make it big. So I always needed a backup, and if I can't play it, the second best thing is coach it. So I ended up going to university. In the meantime, I ended up doing my UFAB licence, and I ended up getting a job at Hull City Academy. The academy I'd been in for all them years, and then I was able to give back to the community and the academy by coaching.
What year you made the decision to go college and decide the coaching? What was the year that you said?
That was 2007. So 2007 was the year I enrolled in university. I played semi-professional at Farsley, and then I was very fortunate to have a job at Hull City. And Hull City was very fortunate while I was playing, because they put me through the UEFA B licence and paid for it all, because I showed an interest in it, and they said, yeah, we'll pay for it, no problem. And it's only like $1,000, but as a 19-year-old, which when I passed the course, that's a lot of money, right? And I definitely wasn't earning that amount of money on a weekly basis like you see some youngsters earning in Europe. I definitely wasn't one of them. So I went to the university, and with my UFAB, and then with my degree and with my experience coaching at Hull City, I was able to kind of get on the fast track of the coaching career, but then still played semi-professional. So after my season at Farsley, because of the travelling and the amount of classes I was missing as a student athlete, I made a decision to drop down numerous levels. My dad had just taken a new coaching job with a team called Bridlington Town, and I played for Bridlington for 10 years. 6 of them was under my dad as the head coach, and I absolutely loved my time there. For about 7 of those 10 years, I had offers to go higher and play at a higher semi-pro level, but everything fit. I was at university for 6 years. I was coaching the academy 3-4 times a week, and then on a Sunday there'd be games, and then I was able to obviously to play quite local, not too local, but the maximum we ever travel was 3 hours to a game, so it wasn't too bad. And I had a great experience. I had a great time. I was going through my university. I got a PhD. It was good money, like to play soccer. I was coaching, which was good money. It wasn't stable, but I was kind of enjoying where I was. I was developing. I was learning. And then I got to I finished my PhD, and I got to a bit of a fork in the road where my ideal job in coaching was to be an academy, full-time academy coach, and kind of like the EPPP came out in England with the academies, and basically they created roles for coaches. So you'd be a development phase coach or a foundation phase coach, and you'd basically look after those coaches in those age groups. So my thing would be a 9 to 12 under that U9 to U12 foundation phase coach. And when that job actually came up 2 years after I finished my PhD, I'm earning. I ended up taking a teaching job in England at a small, like, kind of high school, which kind of looked at sport only. So I got offered this job came up, and I had a chat with the head of the academy at the time, was Tony Pennick, who's now the first team coach at Hull, who came in from Swansea City, and he was a really, really good guy. And he basically said, like, you fit the criteria for what we're looking for. is this something that you'd be wanting to apply for? And for me, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds like a great kind of plan. Can I just ask a couple of questions, logistics about, because I just bought a house and things in England. And he said, oh, this is the amount of money. And it was actually like a $15,000 pay cut to what I was on in my teaching. And I kind of had to turn around and say, I'm sorry, but unless you can kind of get close to this salary, because I've got a house and I've got to put food on the table, I've got to provide for my family, like, there's no way I'm going to do that and then double my hours on top of it, even though this is what I want to do. And I made a real conscious decision right there and then. Do I want to go into the academy program and work 80, 90 hours a week and be on not a lot of money? Not that the money, I'm not bothered about money, but do I want to go down that route and then not play and get not like finish playing totally because I wasn't allowed to play if I went in that full-time role? Or do I go down the teaching route and keep playing for a little bit and see what opportunities arise? And I decided the teaching route. And if I didn't do that, I would not be at Ohio University right now. And then I 2 years after that job opportunity comes up, I apply for a job at Ohio University. I get the job and I double my salary, and I'm kind of like, I made the right decision, you know. And I'm in a place where, as you know, Rafa, it's a beautiful place. And I believe I'm living my best life right now in terms of what I do. I'm educating kind of coaches in a master's and an undergraduate program to, even though it's in an academic setting, it's still fulfilling. And the people that come through our program see a different light of coaching. And I'm not all seeing and all knowing as a coach. No, I've got still tons to learn. But what I love is that I'm able to use different experiences that I went through and learn about different sports in America that I've never been involved in, and then be able to shape my coaching philosophy more. And then I'm a good educator, so then I educate the coaches that come into our program, where they're then able to go and affect their players that they're working with. And that, to me, gives me ultimate satisfaction. So
Right.
so that, for me, is a great kind of journey how I've got to where I've got to.
It's a great journey, and I got some questions all over from coming back. So my first one is, how was the parent-coach phase that you have with your parent? How was for you, and how you think was for the team? Like, was your dad harder on you, or how was that time? And after that, why you decide to take the PhD? That is such a it's not every day that I'm going to make a PhD. So first, the parent-coaching relation, how was, and why you decide the PhD?
So first of all, my dad's my biggest critic in playing soccer, not coaching, playing soccer. He was very, very critical of me at all times, which made me the player I was, because I was constantly trying to strive to improve, which was a good thing, but also a bad thing because it affected my confidence. And it was interesting because when I was at Farsley and I was 17 years old, I was 19 years old. I never ever forget this. And I played a game and I didn't play well, and my confidence was down, and I'd just been released from Scunthorpe and I was on loan, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where my football career was going. And I remember him coming to watch and basically he said, like, your attitude was stunk and your body language was awful. You didn't play well. And that's not what I know of you, Ash. And I turned around and I said, well, that's interesting, because the coach just said I was the best player on the park and I had a good game. And he went, nah, you didn't. And then so we argued, and this is it before he's coaching me. So he was always my biggest critic. But what I ended up doing, I banned him from watching me. I said, you ain't coming to watch me anymore. Nah, I'm done with you. So he used to sneak into the games, because we got like crowds of 1,000, 2,000. He used to sneak into the games without me knowing, and then at the end of the game pop up and say, oh, you had a good game there, or you didn't play well. So I ended up having, like, we butted heads a lot. And then he got the head coaching job, and he said, look, I want you to come and build a team around you. And it actually went the other way. He was very critical of me, don't get me wrong. By the way, if the team lost, I was a scapegoat, let's be honest, right? And that was okay. I understood that later on in life. But we built a great team, and he was the reason why I stuck around. He was the reason why I enjoyed it. His philosophy was totally different to any other coach in non-league soccer in England, which is very old school mentality. Ball, people, like, he was, right, we're going to pass the ball, we're going to play out from the back, and I absolutely loved it. We had a beautiful pitch, beautiful little stadium, and it just fit me to a T. And he basically built his team around my philosophy and made me kind of like the star player, which I loved. And whenever we lost, I was a scapegoat, and we butted heads a few times. But at the same time, he really helped me develop into the player in the non-league circuit that I was. And a lot of teams recognised that I was a good player and kind of man-marked me and things like that. And I had to deal with that, which was okay. But on the flip side, we was able to talk a lot about kind of strategies, tactics, coaching, because he also worked at Hull. I worked at Hull. We worked with different age groups, so we had the same philosophy. So we ended up building a really good culture in this team through me and him and the players that we brought in, and we just had a really strong core that, like, 5 of the players played for the same team for 10 years. That's half a team, which is incredible. And we all had offers to go, more money, better teams, but we had loyalty to the club and we had loyalty to my dad, and it ended up being a fantastic thing. And then he ended up resigning, and another coach came in, and actually, being really honest, this other coach came in, and that's when I played my best soccer ever for 2 years. I was playing the best soccer I ever played, but then he got sacked, got fired, and my dad got offered the job again. So my dad came back in, and he basically made me play a coach. And then I had a different type of responsibility. I'm 26, 27 now, and I've got a little bit of a different responsibility, and I really loved it. I enjoyed it. But there was also some added pressures from me where if I'm telling players what to do, I've also got to back it up. And as I'm getting older and I'm getting these younger players that are coming in, especially these kids that I used to coach at Hull, we used to get the kids who we used to coach to come in because they had the same philosophy of us. That never made it. And we built the team around these young kids, and we were successful. But all of a sudden then they've got a bit of a chip on the shoulder, and they used to argue with me on the field, and I was an angry player, I'll be honest with you, which I'm not as a coach. And I struggled with it. I really struggled with the player-coach situation. In the end, I said to my dad, I just want to be a player or I want to be a coach, one or the other. And in the end, I obviously was, because I was still playing and still decent, I chose the player. And eventually he resigned. And just before I came to Ohio, I played a season at another club and I was the player-coach, but I hardly played. I just said, I'm just going to coach. And I got a few niggling injuries. I want us fit. And I enjoyed that side of it as well, like just the coaching side of it at a semi-professional level. So from that perspective with my dad, it was tough at times, but it was also great at times. So it was a roller coaster. I'll be honest with you, Rafa. It was a roller coaster. In terms of my second question you asked, I guess the PhD, I was fortunate because I got offered a PhD scholarship. I didn't pursue it. And it was a free PhD. And I'll tell you a little story about how that came about. So in England, you do a 3-year undergraduate degree, and in your final year, you have to do a dissertation thesis. And that dissertation thesis is a 10,000 word essay, which you don't even do as a master's student, right? You don't do that many words. So we have to do that in our undergrad, and I was really interested in kind of coaching behaviours, and I actually went and did my research on the coach that was the head of the academy and the coach that I butted head with when I was 16 to 18, because I wanted to know how he behaved as a coach and why he behaved the way he behaved. I on with him. I was really interested in this stuff. It was about the relationship, the psychosocial stuff that obviously I teach in our classes. And I ended up doing this fantastic study that I got an A grade, like a really good high percentage grade on. And it was the best piece of work I did in the university. And even though I was a good student, it was the best piece of work. And I realised that when I put my mind to something that I wanted to do in terms of research, I was actually really good at it. And my supervisor had graded it, and we had like an advisor for your dissertation. So when I submitted it and got it graded, I ended up getting a first class honours degree in England, which is like the highest degree you can get at undergraduate level. I was starting to apply for. I wanted to obviously to be in the academy full time, but there's no jobs available at Hull. So I was applying for academy jobs at other places, and also the FA. The football 11-year-olds called the Tesco Skills Coaches, and they would basically work for the FA on a salary, and they'd go to all these different environments and coach 5 to 11-year-olds with innovative game-based strategies. And I was like, well, that'd be perfect for me. And then I was thinking I might work in the FA for a long time. So I applied for a few jobs and got a couple of interviews. And so I'm about to go on holiday with my then girlfriend and was going to Greece. And I got 3 phone calls in a day, 2 for jobs and 1 from my supervisor at my university asking me to come in for a meeting. And I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? I must be in trouble because I'll be honest with you, Rafa, I wasn't the most professional student in class. Even though you think I'm a real professional faculty member, I was the one that was sat at the back of the class messing about, normally 9 times out of 10, and on my phone and things, right? I was a bad student, I'll be honest with you. That's why I let you all have your phones out, because I'm a hypocrite otherwise. So I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I'm thinking I've done something wrong. Yeah. So I go into this meeting, and there's 4 professors there. And I knew all of them, but I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I was kind of like, so what do you want? And they said, oh, well, we've got 2 PhD scholarships available, full PhD, fully funded tuition, and you're one of the people that we want to do it if you're willing. And I literally turned around to all 4 professors. I went, what the F's a PhD? And they all went, what, you don't know what PhD is? I went, I have no clue. I said, I only found out where the library was last week. And they was like, well, you did an undergraduate degree without going to the library. I was like, I didn't know where the library was. I just used my computer at home. He was like, how have you done so well? I was like, I don't know, I'll be honest with you. So he said, like, so he basically said, look, this is what a PhD is. It's 3 or 4 years. You do a big study. And this is what we want you to study. We want you to study emotional and political, social aspects of coach education. And you create your own study, but that's got to be the focus because that's what's missing in the literature. So I said, look, I'll have to think about it. I've got a couple of job offers from the FA and I was applying for academies at the time. And I literally got on the phone to my mum and I said to her, so like, I've just been offered a free PhD, mum. And she went, what did you say? And I said, I'll think about it, but I'm not going to do it. And I said, I'm done with school. And she's like, no, you're not. You walk back in there right now and you say you take that PhD. And I said, nah, Mum, I'm not doing that. And she was like, yeah, you are. And she said, it'll be the best thing you ever did. Anyway, so I'm going through this PhD process because I accepted it because my mum told me to. And I nearly quit 4 times, I'll be honest with you. So like I had no money. I was struggling with the study. We didn't have a stipend because I wasn't teaching anything. So I had to go find my own work. So I was doing a lot of coaching. I was playing. It was just so much. And I emailed a few times. I called a few times. I said, look, I'm done. I'm done. And they always persuaded me not to quit. And then I'm not a quitter anyway, so I don't know what was going on with me. And my mum and dad was like, no, you got to continue doing it. And it was the best thing I ever did. When I graduated, that was the best thing I ever did because I ended up defending my thesis and I did a good job. And I learned a lot about coaching education and about how to manage it and hold yourself accountable as a coach educator, which I am right now, and I understand them political and social aspects and them emotional aspects that you got to deal with on a daily basis. So for me, I ended up realizing that was the best thing for me. But then once you finish your PhD, it's kind of like, right, I've now Dr. Allanson. What the hell do I do with Dr. Allanson? I used to I'll be honest with you, I got ripped. I got rinsed by my teammates because I'm the doc. I'm doing this PhD. I'm doctor, and I'm like, nah, it's not that. And I'm like trying to be real cool and that, And all of a sudden I'm like this nerd with a doctor in front of my name. And then in coaching, they were like, "What do you need a doctorate for? You don't need a doctorate in coaching." I was like, "Yeah, I know that." And then it kind of worked against me in the academy because people thought I was above them when I won, and it kind of like turned it to a negative. And then in the end, I was kind of like, right, the only place kind of people with a PhD kind of work are universities. So, and I wanted to be out in the States because I'd been out here for a summer and loved it in 2012, worked in Philadelphia. We're doing soccer camps. And it was a great lifestyle. I thought it'd be a great way to kind of go into the next transition into my 30s and I'll have a good lifestyle also. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to be where I am.
Yeah, that's good because this question already answered why you came to Ohio. That was one of my questions.
I'll be honest with you with that, though. Ohio, like, I didn't choose Ohio. Ohio was a job opportunity that basically that I had to apply for. But I applied for 8 different jobs in America, and I remember talking to a professor in Tennessee while I was on vacation visiting my brother in New Jersey, and we got drunk one day in B-dubs and just having a conversation. And at the time, I'm like 29 years old. I'm working at this like high school, enjoying my job. I'd kind of gone through some kind of personal circumstances where I was back living at home with mum and dad at 29, and you start thinking kind of, where am I going in life? I'd kind of ended a couple of relationships, and I was playing, but I knew I was coming to the end of my career in playing because I was getting too many niggling injuries and I couldn't keep my fitness up. And then I wanted to get into coaching. I'd also then stopped coaching at Hull City because of the amount of time I was teaching, and that was my full-time job. And I wanted to still play. So all of a sudden then I'm kind of at a crossroads in my life. And I remember going on vacation for 3 weeks to America to get away. Stayed with my brother. We got drunk quite often, being honest, and got drunk in B-dubs. Never forget this, Tuesday afternoon. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're sinking a few Budweisers in B-dubs and eating a few wings. And he just says, "What are you doing with your life, Ash?" My brother's, and he's younger than me, and he's been in America for 6 years, married, coaching. He's going to be a PE teacher. So he thought he kind of had his life sorted, which he kind of done, but he does now. And he's telling me, basically, sort yourself out. So I'm like, well, what shall I do? And he says, why don't you start applying for some like university jobs or head coaching jobs in America? Not really understanding kind of like the concept of university or college sport.
Oh, it's great.
And now being in it, like I applied for like 5 or 6 different head coaching jobs. I'm not a head coach in college. I ain't got the experience of recruiting. Like, I've got all the coaching credential, but I've never been involved in US college. I couldn't recruit anybody. Like, I could never be a college coach. I could be an assistant, but I couldn't be a head coach right now because I don't have the experience. I'm a youth coach, you know. So anyway, then I started applying for some universities, and I got an email back on that night, and luckily I didn't respond while drunk, so I waited till the next morning. And my brother goes working, and I go around New York for the day, and I'm sightseeing on my own. And I'm literally walking down Wall Street, and I responded to the email in the morning when I woke up, and I get another email saying, "Oh, can you call me on this number?" So I called the guy, and for 2 hours I'm walking down Wall Street, up and down near the Bull, and basically having a conversation about a potential job in Tennessee, in Tennessee State University. And I'm kind of like, wow, this is amazing. And I fly back home, I apply for the job, thinking, it's going to happen. And all of a sudden, I don't hear nothing for 3, 4, 5 months. So I'm kind of like, whoa, what? Like, I thought I'd got the job with this phone call, you know? So I started applying for other jobs. And the Ohio University was one of the jobs that kind of stood out. I got in touch with, obviously, Dr. David Carr, who's a big advocate of our program and still working with us, and someone that you respect gratefully, Rafa, and spoke with. And he started reaching out to me saying, yeah, apply for this job, and you've got all these credentials, blah, blah, blah. And then one thing led to another, and next for a interview, then they me out to Ohio. Never been to Ohio in my life, and then I'm driving from Columbus down to Athens for a job interview, and I'm walking around the campus, and I stayed at the OU Inn, and I'm like literally kind of like couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk around the campus at like 1 a.m. before my full day's interview, and I'm walking around looking at all the massive buildings and the fantastic facilities, and I'm like, oh, this is incredible. But what's so funny, and we've had these conversations in class, I'm saying to all our students, like, these are amazing facilities, like, you believe so. And these American students are like, these facilities aren't even that good. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? We've never seen these facilities. I've never seen an indoor 100-yard field before, turfed up and with a running track around, you know. So it's like incredible. So I was very, very fortunate to kind of get into that, to get to Ohio, but I never ever envisaged I'd be here, and it wasn't something that I pursued. It was an opportunity that I took, and then when they offered me the job, I was never ever turning it down. And I moved out here in autumn, and 3 years later, I think I've done a good job in the university in terms of the teaching and the mentorship that I give my students. I've met somebody and settled down, and we've been very, very fortunate. I've been fortunate that I've met this woman. We've bought a house, and life is incredible, you know. And I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am. But the journey that took me there has been a very roller coaster journey that has many ups and downs. But without soccer and without coaching, I wouldn't be where I am.
No, yeah, I think it's crazy your story how much adversity, and I think a lot of people think people got to the job and they always take the right decision, and sometimes you don't know and you gotta go with different options, you know, and follow. I never thought I would coach women's soccer, and I ended up coaching, but I think the good about stories how much adversity is, even as a player, how many times, and that's the next question. When the guy goes to you and they're in the championship and they tell you you're not in his vision, he's not the championship, you know, the guy's being honest, but how as a player you have the mental toughness to keep going, you know, when you see the good team. So my next question is just...
Well, I just think on that, interesting you say that, Rafa, because I'll be honest with you, I think mental toughness as a player was something that I really struggled with, especially when I was younger. And that adversity, but it's one of them where you look back, like when you are now, especially because I teach about it as well, and I teach about mental toughness and the psychological and the social aspects of kind of playing and coaching. And I realised that them rejections, if you like, were what made me who I am today, even though I didn't realise it at the time because I was upset and devastated. But at the same time, I believe that each rejection came because the type of person that I am and the way I've been brought up. I've always been brought up to be a realist, and even though you've got dreams and you've got to go for those dreams, you always are, for whatever reason, I'm a very humble person, and I think I've been brought up with humility so that you're not egotistical, or you're not trying to dream above what you can achieve, and it's realistic goal setting, right? And I think each time I had a knockback in soccer as a player, I think I was always preparing myself for it without realising it, like subconsciously, like, oh, if I'm not in the team, then I realise that I'm not good enough, so they're probably going to release me. So what I need to do is plan for the next thing and make sure I've got a backup plan. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way to go about it, because I'm always kind of looking as a glass half empty as a glass half full. But I really do think it helped me manage my rejections, even though I didn't take it well personally at the time. I think it's helped me develop me as a player. And the reason why I say that is because there was like only 2% make it, you know, like, and only 0.5% make it big, right? And I mean big, where they don't have to work ever again, and they're multimillionaires and they're playing at the top level. So for me, it was one of them where I'm in that 2% that I've got to a certain level of professional soccer. I'm also in that 2% where I'm a certain level of coaching. I'm also in that 2% because I'm a PhD doctorate, and you start realising that you're at the cream of the crop. But I never feel like that. I never think like that. I'm always thinking, like, if something occurs, what's my plan? If something goes wrong, what's your backup plan? And it's like, and just an example of that is, obviously the university went through big cuts this summer, and people have been worried about losing their jobs. And I'll be honest with you, Matt, I was one of those people. Like, you're thinking that you could get your job cut, even though I think I'm good at what I do, and I think that we've got a good, strong program. You just never know what the hierarchy think. So I'm kind of saying to the missus, I'm like, well, if I lose my job, what's the plan? And she goes, well, don't think like that. And I said, well, we've got to think like that. I says, like, if I lose my job, do we go back to England? Do I go back to England? Would you come with me? Do I go and find a job elsewhere in America? Do you come with me? And she's like, well, I'd love to stay in Ohio. We just bought a house. I went, well, if we're only going to stay in Ohio and we're going to stay in Athens, then I might have to open a coaching clinic or school here. And I might have to become a youth coach, because that's all I know. And she goes, why are you thinking like that? And I said, because we need a backup plan in case something goes wrong. And if we can't continue this life that we're doing because of me, then, and you want to stay here because you've lived here all your life and you're a school teacher, then that's me. That if I want to stay with you, which I do, and we just bought a house, I've got to adapt. And I think that's one of the biggest things in terms of mental toughness. Stability and flexibility is huge. And if you've got an open mind, whether it's negative or positive, half empty, half full, whatever you want to call it, if you're flexible as a person and you can see something in adversity coming at you, but you know there's a plan to avert it or divert it or whatever you want to do, then I believe you kind of, that's for me organisational thinking, and that's how I am as a person in order to continue in the profession I'm in. And I'll tell you why I do this, and it goes back to that coach, that coach that was the head of the academy at Hull and that I butted head with. He said this one phrase to me, and I'll never ever forget it. He says, change or die. Change or die. Ash, if you don't change, you're out the game. If you don't change, we're going to release you. If you don't do this, you're not going to get to where you want to get. If you coach like this, you're not going to coach for very long. And every time I felt like that was a put down on me, but actually it was teaching me that you've got to be as flexible, as adaptable as possible, because things happen, and if you don't adapt to it, you basically get with the wave, and you're going to be unemployed, or you're out the game of soccer. And he said every day he comes to work, he thinks it's his last day in soccer. That's what he thinks. And I'm not saying I think like that, but his mindset is then, what do I do if? What do I do if? And I believe that's something that's ingrained into me because of my upbringing and because of him as a coach and things like that, and as a mentor, I guess. But there's always a plan B with me, always.
No, yeah, that's my grandfather was telling me, you just leave your plan A when your plan B is better. He said, otherwise you suck it up. Because I used to tell him what I do, and he's like, look, you look for other options, and until you have a plan B or a place that you can put your foot and be half and half, but right now is your both foot. So he always say, never have your both foot in one boat.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I have two more questions that before the interview, I want to search it. How was play? I don't know if I'm saying right, you correct me. The World Cup University. Well, I saw that you play for
for England university team.
Yes.
So in England, so when I went into semi-professional soccer and I started university, I realised that I'll talk about futsal as well, but basically the university in England is very different to universities out in America. There's no elite level college sport out there. It's like professional or semi-professional, or university is a bit of a social thing. So we have two club teams at Ohio University, a men and women's club team. And the women's club team aren't too bad, and the men's club team are decent, to be fair. And they go to nationals and they compete. But that's what it's like in England. It's more social, it's student-led. But being on that, which is quite interesting, is Graham Potter, who is the head coach for Brighton and Hove Albion in the Premier League right now. He was the coach for Swansea. He actually came to University of Hull when I first came, and he was classed as the football development officer for the University of Hull, and basically was the coach of the student team. So I played for the student team. I was playing for Farsley or Bridlington at the time during my university career, and I was working with Graham, and he also worked at, or Potts as I call him, and he worked at Hull Academy, working with the U15s and U16. Incredible guy, incredible coach, and to see where he is right now is just phenomenal. He's done magnificent, all because he took a leap of faith and went to Sweden and worked with a team in Sweden for 4 years, got consecutive promotions, and he got himself on the map as the head coach of Swansea in the English Championship, and did well at Swansea. And he was a fantastic forward-thinking coach. And it was interesting because he's the coach at the university, which I played for. But it was a student-led social team. We'd go drinking every Wednesday. We'd play a game on a Wednesday. We'd drink. I wouldn't even play it because of my commitments to a decent level of semi-professional soccer. I wouldn't even play. I'd just go along for the ride and just like kind of assist or come on as sub, play a little bit, and it was just a social thing. So what happened was the university have an English or a British universities team, where the best university players in all the universities in England try out to play for the team. So I, obviously because I was playing a high level of semi-pro, somebody contacted Potts as the coach for the whole university team, and he put forward 3 players for these trials. Me, a guy called Chib Chilaka, who played for Notts County, and we went, and me and Chib got through. to the next level. And then basically we got picked for England, and then we went and played a couple of games for England while I was at university. And it was pretty cool. You got the England strip. It was fantastic. And then on the same breath, I started getting into futsal because there was a team that played in the summer, and it was good fitness. And one of my mates played there, and he says, "Oh, do you want to come play?" I said, "I don't know what futsal is, but I'll play." Ended up realising, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And I played a few games for my local team. We was in the national league, even though it wasn't big and you didn't get paid for it or anything like it obviously you do in Brazil. And it's not as big, obviously, in England. And the next thing, I get a call from the England head coach saying that there's a training camp. Do you want to come along? And I said, yeah, that's great. And I went along, and it was interesting because I didn't really know all the proper rules. And I went into this training camp. And the next thing I got out the blue, I just got a phone call saying you've been selected for the next squad against Georgia in Russia. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I am playing for Fazi in the Conference National, and I'm travelling to Georgia, and I'm saying to the coach, look, I'm going to represent England futsal. So we went in for a 4-day trip in Georgia. I made my debut. The team had never won a game ever in 2 years of their history. We drew with Georgia in the first game, 2-2, and then we lost the second game 4-2. And I got a bit of decent playing time and did okay. So that was in the November. In the December, we had another friendly come up, and we're playing Greece. So I got selected in the squad again, and it was the first game that England ever won, and I scored in it, and we won 8-7 against Greece. And it was a massive deal. And so I played futsal, and then in January I got selected again for another squad, and we went to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and we played in the Kuala Lumpur Malaysian Invitational Tournament. Brazil, Argentina, Australia, Indonesia. I got to see Falcao play, which was incredible. Argentina was in our group. They beat us at 13-0, and it was just embarrassing but amazing at the same time. What was so funny about that game? So we're all in this incredible hotel in Kuala Lumpur, right? And we played Argentina in the morning. We got beat 13-0. In the afternoon, which was really interesting, and it's just crazy how the world of soccer works. Dawn Scott, who was the US Women's National Sports Science coach, head or strength conditioning coach for the World Cup that they won 2 years ago, was our sports scientist for the England national futsal team. So we finished the game and we had to recover. So when we was on the flight to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, it's like a 16-hour flight, she made us sleep at certain times. We had to be hydrated. She gave us water bottles. We had to wear compression socks. We had to do all the shebang, right? What the England national team do. We was futsal semi-pro players doing the same thing, right? And it's kind of like, well, we only want to be here because that's what we do with semi-pro soccer players. So what happened was we played Argentina, and there was a pool on the roof of the hotel, and it was 40 degrees in January in Kuala Lumpur, like unbelievable. So we all got these baseball caps, these England baseball caps, all T-shirts, and we ended up going to the pool. And she said, right, we're going to do a recovery session in the pool. But because it's outside, you've got to keep your hat on and you keep your T-shirt on because I don't want anyone getting sunburned. And we're all grown men, and I was like, all right, what's this about? So we're in the pool in lines doing stretches, like opening the groin, closing the groin, dynamic stretches, like in pairs, stretching each other's hamstrings and stuff in the pool, doing this active recovery session, which is so important, yeah. And the Argentinians come out, tops off, shorts on, like non-alcoholic cocktails, laid on the bed, like suntan, and we're doing these stretches, and they're laughing at us because they're just being 13-0, and they're chilling out with a big fat Cuban cigar, So I'm just like, they've just done it. It's just an incredible thing where someone that is so professional like Dawn Scott, who did the right things, and we bought into it, obviously. And then you see the Argentinian team, probably ranked 4th in the world, like coming off their game and just sunbathing for the rest of the afternoon. We weren't allowed to because we had a T-shirt and a ball cap. Unbelievable.
That's good. So, that's a good story.
so the futsal thing was good, and then I ended up like developing the local club team. And then I used to literally play Saturday for my semi-pro club, Bridlington, and then I play Sunday futsal. And we play 2 games of futsal on that Sunday. We travel all over England, and it was just a fantastic time. But in the end, again, because of my studies, because of my work, I had to make a decision. What's more important? And I was never going to give up the 11-a-side game up, and I was never going to give coaching up. So I had to give the futsal stuff up, and which meant that I couldn't play for England. Another lad had the same situation as me, and he continued it, and he got 100 caps, and he's on the wall in Wembley Stadium next to David Beckham with his name inscribed. He's got a lad called Luke Ballinger, a great kid, as the highest scoring futsal player in English history and the highest caps and he got over 100 caps. And he's actually on the wall with all these incredible players like David Beckham, and Peter Shilton, who was the goalkeeper, Bobby Moore, the World Cup winner, all these people, Ashley Cole. So all these people, he's on the wall next to him. It's just a phenomenal achievement. And I chose not to do that, So not that I would have got 100 caps, I don't think. But yeah, it was incredible. And it was interesting with Falcao as well. Like, we hardly saw the Brazilians, and the Brazilians were always in the room while we was always out mingling and we had to do like photo shoots for the Malaysians and stuff. And they never came down to the restaurant to eat. They'd get room service. That's what the Brazilians did. And Falcao was like, had an entourage of like bodyguards around him and stuff. It was incredible. But when he went out and played, was the most phenomenal thing I ever saw. And this is the true story, Rafa, the most amazing thing. So he had an ankle injury, and he only played bit parts. And it was Brazil-Argentina final, and Brazil won 4-0, and they won the Invitational, and Falcao played. He was magnificent. But the semi-final, they played Australia. Now, Australia beat us 6-0, and they weren't very good, but that's how bad we were. And he's on the bench, and there's a full capacity crowd, like 40,000 Malaysians screaming, Falcao, Falcao. And we're all in the stand wanting, we're like, Falcao, bring Falcao up. And I'll never ever forget, so he's warming up, they're all cheering him when he's warming up on the side. And obviously in futsal, it's roll on, roll off subs, and you can come on when you want. So he goes on, and this is no word of a lie what happens. So you're obviously in your own half as you come on. So he comes on, he does a quick switch while the game's in play, and he runs to the bottom of the court. So he's now on the goal line of the opposition. And then he checks back, so he's basically mid-court in the opposition's half. And the guy, and one of the other players, switches it to him. And he literally catches it on his shoulder. Australian guy comes in, he flicks it over the kid. Another guy comes in, he like flicks it over him. He gets to the byline, he backheels it back, and the kid puts it in the top corner. And then he walks off to be subbed again. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, futsal is the most intense, physical. Like, we used to wear heart rate monitors for the foot because the England, we used to put them on. And they used to show you data when you came off. And the data showed your heart rate. And my heart rate was like 200 BPM. And I was on the court for 3 minutes. I watched Falcao in the final. He played like the game's obviously 40-minute long. And I know it's real time. But he played probably, out of them 40 minutes, he probably played around about 31 minutes of the whole game. And he didn't even come off with a sweat on. And he walked around. And when I'm on, and there's a video clip that I posted on Instagram the other week, I'm chasing everybody, running here against Indonesia. And Indonesia were poor, they still beat us 5-3. And I'm chasing, and I come off red, and the camera zooms in on me, and I'm sweating. I'm nearly being sick on the sideline. And I'm just like, what is going on? You got Falcao strolling around the futsal court. And I'm redder than my hair,
That's great. It's a good story as well. This is really good. Oh, my God. I think we covered a lot. We got good stories. I think it's good to know your story. I always make this question now on the podcast that is 3 questions before we conclude, and then of course you can bring any other message. But who was your best coach you ever had? Who was the best player you ever played with? And who was the best friend soccer gave you? So
okay, nice. So my best coach, this is very biased, but my dad had to be the best coach. And I really truly believe with my dad, if he had the opportunity to go and progress as a coach when he was younger, and not have to provide with a family with a full-time job that he had, which he hated and still hates to this day, but he knows that was his salary was good in this job that he didn't like, and coaching was extra. And my mum earned good money as well as working in the National Health Service in England, and he could have gone on to bigger and better things, but he had a bit of fear about that, because he had a fear that he had to provide for his family, and he couldn't quit his job and lose that salary and not give us the lifestyle that we had, even as young adults. just to pursue a coaching career. So I think he was very, very, in terms of where he is, in terms of his philosophy, in terms of his relationships, he was ahead of his time by far. He is my role model in terms of how I started coaching, but now I've got a lot more other kind of more deeper thought processes because of the education I've had compared to what he's had. And he was successful in everything he did, and he was and he worked at Hull City for 15 years as an academy coach. And I speak to there's a player that's just made it into the first team at Hull City called Robin McKenzie, and I'm kind of in contact with him every now and again. And he believes that me and him, myself and my dad, were the biggest influences that they had on his career to get to where he's got to today, which shows the power of what my dad did in his coaching career, just with the youth at Hull. But then at Bridlington, he had a 6-year spell there. We won the league once. We won 3 cups. We was there or thereabouts every season to win the league. And then when he came back, it was a rebuilding process. And our average age was like 21. And he was successful with a 21-year-old average age team. And he was just phenomenal the way he worked. So he would be definitely my role model and one of the best coaches I worked with. And there's a bit of bias there, obviously, but just his thought process was incredible. Best player I ever played with? Well, obviously, in terms of where they've got to, I'd have to say James Milner. Obviously, an England international. Aaron Lennon, close second. But then you look at what Milner's done in his career, is just phenomenal. But in terms of who I actually played with as an adult, the best player I ever saw, and I guess I played with a little bit, was Nicky Barmby. And Nicky Barmby played for England, and he was famous because he set up a couple of goals in the famous England-Germany 5-1 victory in Germany in 2001. And he came to Hull City and came to his hometown club, but he was phenomenal what he did, and he was great in training. He changed the culture of stretching and keeping active before and after training. He was just phenomenal. He was the first on the training ground, last off, and his work ethic was incredible. And then whenever I played in the reserves with him or in the first team, like in pre-season friendlies, he was just a different. His play was different class. And then in terms of best friend, I've got a couple that would like in the semi-pro game. So one was a guy called Paul Fraser who played in goal. And then we actually met on the university course and we ended up playing together for Bridlington. And he still to this day is one of my really, really good friends. And then another guy called Danny Buttle who did the rounds in non-league. There's a running joke about him saying that he's got more clubs than Tiger Woods because he was literally at so many clubs. He's a journeyman, but he was a really, really good friend. And we had many, many good nights out together. And even to this day, I speak to them both. I FaceTime them quite often. So yeah, they're my kind of ways in which I'm still involved in that process of soccer, even though I'm in Ohio and I'm not really coaching as much as I want to or at the level like I used to coach at. And doing what I'm doing, I've got a different life out here. It's still great to kind of reconnect with the soccer community back home in England.
Oh, it's great. I want to thank you for your time. I think a really great story. Probably one of the best we have in the Coach Talk podcast so far. And I don't want to say anything, but for me, we can finish here.
I just want to say, Rafa, that like just me personally, to you, knowing you as a student, has just been a phenomenal time to get to know you and what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do in your future. I wish you all the very, very best. And you know that you can reach out to me whenever you want to, and I'm here to help and assist you in your journey. And the good thing is, when you get to the level that you want to get to, you're definitely gonna teach me a lot of things about the collegiate level. You already have done. You and A-Rod have been good people to be around at Ohio in the words in women's and men's collegiate soccer. And it's interesting to follow where you're going to go, and you're going to go to bigger and greater things. And I'm just glad that we've had an opportunity for our paths to cross at Ohio University. And I'm glad that you see me as a mentor. And I hope that we obviously will keep in contact. And it'll be great to see where you move to and go from the program, and it's definitely helped you become a better coach.
I appreciate it. Okay, take care, Dr. Alice. Have a great day.
Thank you.